Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most heavily scrubbed mysteries in internet history. Seriously, if you try searching for this online today, you'll mostly just hit dead links, deleted forum posts, and totally redacted files. But we've managed to gather the surviving source material to unpack exactly what went down during a broadcast that literally shook the internet to its core.
5 strangers accepted an offer worth $1 million. All they had to do was stay awake for 7 days. I mean, that was the premise anyway. But as we'll see from the official timeline, this was never just some simple game of endurance. Because by the morning of the 4th day, millions of people watching the live feed witnessed something that completely defied all logic. 3 of those contestants just vanished. Poof, gone into thin air from a completely locked underground facility.
Okay, let's set the stage here with the baseline setup. Back in January 2025, this totally bizarre ad started circulating in the hidden corners of the internet. There was no corporate sponsor, no branding, just a phone number. They ended up flying the chosen participants out to an undisclosed underground research facility somewhere in Nevada. The rules were absolutely absolute. No sleeping, no sedatives, no leaving the facility. If you survive 7 days, you get $1 million. And the real kicker? Every single second would be broadcast on a worldwide live stream. These strict hyperclinical rules built up this totally false sense of security for everyone watching at home.
So, out of thousands of applicants, the organizers handpicked exactly these 5 individuals. We're talking a pro gamer, an ER nurse, a former military officer, a psychology student, and a small-time YouTuber. I know, it kind of sounds like the setup to a bad joke, right? But honestly, for the first 2 days, the broadcast was entirely normal, harmless even. The contestants joked around, the audience laughed, and the clinical environment felt totally safe. But, as you probably know, human psychology and extreme sleep deprivation are a really dangerous mix.
Everything shifted on night 3. Marcus, the YouTuber, suddenly just froze. He claimed he heard a child laughing softly right behind him. Now, none of the other contestants admitted to hearing a thing, but the live stream chat, it absolutely exploded. Thousands of viewers started frantically typing the exact same question in real time. Who is that behind him? When Marcus checked the room's live feed monitor, there was this motionless silhouette of a child standing in the far corner. It was way too perfectly still to be a living human, but when Marcus physically spun around to look, the corner was completely empty.
Which brings us to part 2, visual artifacts.
At first, the facility staff quickly brushed the whole sighting off as a technical glitch. Just some visual artifacting in the camera compression. But that rational explanation totally fell apart just hours later. Olivia walked into the bathroom and found these words scratched directly into the mirror. And I mean the grooves were deep enough to literally crack the glass. Don't let it see you sleep. The truly terrifying part here, the facility's internal cameras definitively proved that no one had entered the bathroom to write it. No one had touched the mirror. And none of the contestants had been left alone long enough to carve it themselves.
As word of these impossible anomalies spread across social media, the live stream's audience metrics just skyrocketed. I mean, the viewership doubled literally overnight, hitting a staggering 20 million concurrent viewers. To put that in perspective, people weren't watching a scientific sleep experiment anymore. They were tuning into a real-time thriller.
All right, moving on to part 3, the 6th bed.
So, by day 4, extreme exhaustion is really taking its toll. Jake is hearing whispers, and Melissa is claiming someone is literally crawling in the walls. Paranoia completely peaked when a live Q&A viewer asked an impossible question that shattered whatever tiny bit of safety remained. The question was, why is there a 6th bed? Now, the official facility blueprints and the initial setup explicitly confirmed 5 beds for 5 subjects. The contestants themselves even laughed at the viewer's question at first. But when Marcus turned and actually counted, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there, in the pitch-black darkness just beyond the camera's normal edge, sat a 6th bed, just waiting. And no one remembered it being there.
Before anyone could even try to investigate, the facility's intercom speakers crackled to life. But it wasn't the scientists speaking. It was a soft, calm, child's voice whispering, "He's awake now." And instantly, the primary power completely cut out.
For 37 agonizing seconds, the live stream was entirely black. Millions of viewers just sat there, listening to the sound of screaming in the dark, followed by absolute dead silence. When the backup generators finally kicked in and the lights snapped back on, Marcus was gone, vanished. And that previously empty 6th bed, it was now occupied. Someone was lying under the blanket, breathing slowly. Ryan, the former military officer, ignored the scientist's screaming orders over the intercom, grabbed the blanket and ripped it back. There was no body. But carved deep into the bare mattress were the words, "You should have slept."
And then, the impossible happened again. Marcus casually walked back into the main room from the hallway, claiming he had just gone to the bathroom. Keep in mind, millions of people had literally just watched him vanish on the main feed. Marcus seemed genuinely terrified and insisted he remembered absolutely nothing. But Olivia noticed thick blood packed under his fingernails and raw drag marks covering his arms. Slowly, Marcus looked up, gave this incredibly wide, unnatural smile, and spoke. But it wasn't his voice. Out of his mouth came the voice of a child saying, "He said one of us has already lost."
Let's unpack what's really going on here in Part 4, Project Subject 6. So, Ryan realizes they're trapped in something far more dangerous than some internet game show, and he physically forces his way into the locked control room. There was no prize money. There was no corporate sponsor. Instead, he found 30-year-old classified military files detailing a research operation known as Subject 6. According to these documents, researchers had long ago discovered an entity that only manifests to subjects undergoing severe sleep deprivation. It starts out as an apparition of a child, but it evolves. It actually learns from whoever observes it, and crucially, it grows exponentially stronger the more attention it receives. The files showed a horrifying pattern. In every single previous test, the final awake subject always disappeared, and Subject 6 permanently took their place.
Ryan furiously scans the official participant list on the main terminal. There should have been 5 names, but there was a 6th entry. The data was heavily corrupted, leaving only a single visible sentence on the screen. It was never human. The very second Ryan read those words, the heavy steel door to the control room violently slammed shut behind him.
Which leads us to the terrifying conclusion, Part 5, the final broadcast. Back in the main room, Marcus suddenly collapses to the floor. When he finally opened his eyes and looked up at the camera, they were completely solid black. Panic was now fully setting in, and not just in that room, but across the globe. Because of the entity's nature, remember, it grows stronger through observation. The insane virality of the stream was literally feeding it. The viewership counter surged to 40 million people. It became, in that precise moment, the largest live broadcast in the history of the internet. It was a massive, uncontrollable, global observation event.
So with this massive, captive audience, Marcus stands up slowly, points a finger directly into the camera lens, directly at the 40 million people watching, and announces, "He can see all of you now." As he said it, the room grew noticeably darker, and distinct, smiling, humanoid shapes began manifesting in literally every corner of the facility.
Outside, the facility scientists were absolutely panicking and initiated a total hard kill of the system. They cut the primary power, they physically severed the internet lines, they literally took axes to the servers. But the live stream? It absolutely refused to die. It just kept broadcasting with zero electricity and no physical network connection. And that's when viewers around the world started reporting the impossible on social media. The exact same smiling child from the facility was now appearing in their own bedrooms, standing silently in the dark reflections of their computer monitors.
Back in the completely silent facility, only Olivia and Ryan remained. Everyone else had just vanished. Olivia looked directly into the lens, her jaw stretching down unnaturally wide, and delivered the terrifying final realization of the military's mistake. It doesn't feed on sleeplessness, it feeds on witnesses. And then, the master livestream feed abruptly switched. It stopped showing the underground facility entirely. Instead, it fractured into a grid of 40 million tiny screens, showing the live webcam feed of every single viewer watching. And standing right behind every single viewer on screen was the smiling child.
The stream terminated a second later. Returning to the documented facts of the aftermath year, federal authorities moved with unprecedented speed. Within minutes, they had forcibly erased almost all footage of the broadcast from the public internet. Officially, the government claims the $1 million sleep experiment never happened. The 5 contestants remain listed as missing persons. No bodies were ever recovered, and despite thousands of internet sleuths hunting for it, the physical Nevada facility was never found.
But here is what you really need to take away from this explainer today. The data never truly disappears. People across the internet still report stumbling onto hidden, encrypted live streams late at night. Streams with no title, no thumbnail, and no chat. Just one viewer, you. And the moment you connect, a child looks directly through the screen and whispers, "Stay awake."
So as we wrap up our analysis of Subject 6, I have to leave you with one final, very important question to consider tonight. Are you awake?